Holy ground, recognizing God's presence in everyday life. There is a moment in the Bible when Moses approached a burning bush, and God told him, "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Exodus 3 verse 5. At first glance, this might seem like a story set in a distant past, a scene of desert wonder meant to inspire awe in its readers. Yet this encounter is more than history. It is a lens through which we can begin to recognize the sacred in our daily lives. Just as Moses encountered God in a seemingly ordinary place, we too can find holy ground in our everyday routines if we learn to see with eyes attuned to His presence. Many of us move through life on autopilot, so caught up in tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities that we fail to notice God walking beside us. We often think of holiness as something reserved for church buildings, religious ceremonies, or moments of deep spiritual revelation. But the truth is that God's presence is not limited to these spaces. Scripture reminds us in Psalm 139, verse 7 to 10, that where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? This passage suggests that God is everywhere, in our homes, our workplaces, our streets, and even in the quiet moments when no one else is watching. Recognizing holy ground, then, begins with the understanding that God does not come to us only in extraordinary ways. He is already here, waiting for our awareness. The challenge is that we often overlook the small, everyday opportunities to encounter Him. When we pause to watch the sunrise, hear a child's laughter, or notice a stranger's act of kindness, we are glimpsing God's fingerprints in the world. Isaiah 6 verse 3 tells us, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of His glory." If the whole earth is full of His glory, then every moment has the potential to become holy. This means that the mundane is not devoid of divine significance. The breakfast table, the commute, the quiet evening alone, all can become sacred if approached with an awareness of God's nearness. Recognizing God in daily life requires intentionality. It is a decision to slow down and perceive the ordinary through the lens of the divine. We often rush from one moment to the next, missing opportunities to experience awe or gratitude. Yet, if we intentionally pause, even for a brief prayer of thanks or reflection, we can transform our surroundings into holy ground. Consider the story of Jacob in Genesis 28, who dreamed of a ladder reaching to heaven. Upon waking, he exclaimed, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Genesis 28 verse 16. Jacob's realization teaches us that awareness is crucial. God's presence is not always obvious, but it is always real. Sometimes, holy ground reveals itself through challenges or pain. Life's difficulties can strip away distractions, leaving us face to face with God in ways that calm our fears or deepen our faith. Psalm 46 verse 1 reminds us that God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Even when circumstances feel overwhelming, recognizing God's presence can bring peace, purpose, and clarity. In these moments, everyday life becomes the site of divine encounter, much like Moses' desert became holy ground. Faith also invites us to honor God through our actions in everyday spaces. Ephesians 5 verse 15 and 16 urges, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity." When we act with love, patience, and integrity in our daily interactions, we treat life itself as holy. Our choices and deeds, small as they may seem, become offerings of worship, a recognition that God inhabits every part of our lives. Holy ground is not merely about noticing God in nature or sacred spaces. It is also about allowing His presence to shape our conduct, our words, and our hearts. One of the most profound ways to experience God in the ordinary is through prayer and reflection. Jesus often withdrew to quiet places to commune with His Father, even amidst a busy ministry. Mark 1 verse 35. In these moments of stillness, He transformed solitude into sacred encounter. Likewise, by carving out moments for prayer, meditation, or even silent gratitude during the day, we can cultivate a consciousness of God's nearness. This practice trains us to see life itself as a sacred rhythm, each heartbeat and breath a reminder that we are not alone. Recognizing holy ground also reshapes our perspective on time and space. What once seemed routine can become an opportunity for worship or connection. Sharing a meal with family, lending a listening ear to a friend, or even planting a seed in a garden can be imbued with spiritual significance when we understand that God is present. Romans 12 verse 1 calls us to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, which suggests that every act of our daily life can become an act of devotion. In this sense, holy ground is not defined by location, but by awareness and intention. Ultimately, recognizing God's presence in everyday life transforms us. It encourages gratitude where we once felt indifference, patience where we once felt frustration, and love where we once felt obligation. Life itself becomes a canvas where God paints moments of beauty, lessons, and grace. Just as Moses stood barefoot before the burning bush, we too can step lightly into each day with reverence, understanding that God's presence permeates the ordinary. Holy ground is not always dramatic or unmistakable. Sometimes it is a whisper, a quiet nudge, or a fleeting glimpse of beauty that makes us pause. When we cultivate awareness, gratitude, and intentionality, we discover that life itself is filled with sacred moments. Recognizing God in the everyday is not only an act of faith, it is a daily practice, a way of living that turns the ordinary into extraordinary. And as we walk this path, we may find ourselves echoing Jacob's words, "Surely the Lord is in this place." Every step we take, every breath we draw, can lead us to holy ground.